My name is Harald Schmidt. I'm an assistant professor of medical ethics and health policy at the Permanent School of Medicine. And we're talking today about a JAMA viewpoint with Larry Gostin and Michelle Williams on implications of the recent Supreme Court rulings for health. I'm not a lawyer, so I won't comment on the intricacies of the legal ramifications here. However, the point about race neutrality that the justices emphasized does matter in an ethical sense, and I'm an ethicist. So what they are fundamentally asserting, I profoundly agree with, which is that in any society, your race and ethnicity should not play a role when it comes to your status in society. The problem, however, is that the way the majority of the justices refer to race neutrality is very myopic and in fact twisted in terms of where we're at the moment. So look, for example, at this figure that is included in the paper in a supplement. And what you see here is an overlay of a measure of disadvantage called the Error Deprivation Index with racial groups. And what you see immediately is that the shares of worse off people among black populations and among Native American populations is twice as high as when you compare it with the white population. That's bad. So this ruling is narrowly centered on affirmative action in higher education. The problem, however, is that in multiple ways it will also affect health and health care. One, and the most direct implication, is that it will affect who's able to go to medical school. Until the early 2000s, the share of black physicians remained vastly below the population share, around 2.5%. Only then did we have a slight uptick. Currently it is 5%, and the share of black people in the population is 13%, so way below the population share. What the ruling will do is that it will revert back, reducing the numbers of black people and, for that matter, also Native American people and other underrepresented minorities in the physician workforce. So that's a very clear, very unfortunate implication. It's not just unfortunate in equity terms, it also has immediate health implications. A recent study found that for every 10% increase in black primary care physicians at the county level, you have a 30-day increase in black life expectancy. So what this ruling will do is that it will shorten black life expectancy. And that's unconscionable given where we are at this point. So besides the impact on clinical education and who gets to practice medicine, there are also very direct implications for clinical trials. So for a good time now, NIH has required that the populations that are included in trials represent the broader population. And that's important often, but not always, on scientific grounds as well as on justice grounds, because it recognizes that many underrepresented minority groups have been excluded or exploited in clinical trials. And this is a way of starting fresh and making sure that clinical trials are conducted in an equitable way. So it's possible that groups will now feel encouraged to say, you're seeking to strive quotas that represent the broader population, and I don't like that because I might be excluded from participating in a trial I perceive to be particularly beneficial. And that is something we really should not accept, and we need to keep the objectives that NIH currently pursues in ensuring representative populations in clinical trials. Separately, there's also other implications, which is that CDC and NIH run a number of initiatives to better understand the disparities that we have across different racial and ethnic groups and find out which interventions can help to redress them. Here too, it is possible that because these initiatives are funded through taxpayer funds, groups might feel emboldened to say, I want you to review these allocations because you are trying to prioritize minority populations, and I view the Supreme Court as saying this is not okay. Clearly, back to the chart we showed earlier, this is precisely what is required because the disparities we see reflect ongoing patterns of historic and continuing discrimination and racism. But this is a piece we need to address head on. One of the many important developments in the policy response to COVID that we've seen is the completely unprecedented uptake of disadvantage indices, such as the Error Deprivation Index and the Social Vulnerability Index that we talked about. Importantly, these also recognize the intersection of race and disadvantage in the sense that they can work as pragmatic measures of structural racism. So as we can see on that figure that we looked at earlier, much larger shares of people of color are included among the worse off in society. And these are therefore tools that offer pragmatic measures of structural racism. And it's something that could be under threat from the SCOTUS ruling, in part because some of the indices include race, some don't, and the courts have made it clear that even when such measures don't include race, they might view them as objectionable. But this is something we have to resist.